This podcast is a proud member of Pod Nation Media Network.
If you
Yeah.
are an audio drama, those numbers are essential to know whether you've missed an episode or not. To
Yeah.
know, oh, hey, I was on episode 13, I haven't listened to it for 4 weeks. What episode should I go back to? Because names are much harder to remember if you have individual episode names.
Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I'm speaking to Hem Brewster from Blighthouse Studios. Hey Em, thanks for speaking today.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm okay, thank you very much. Right, Blighthouse Studios, they have 5 shows that I know of under their hat, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, technically we have 5, but our 5th is more like a Twitch stream, and we
Yeah.
haven't done that, and I think since the second month that we started Blighthouse, which was almost 2 years ago now, because life kind of switched up on us a little bit and we weren't able to stream as much. So our Twitch stream, which is Dragon's Den, or the real Dragon's Den, unfortunately, we just don't do that anymore. We just don't have time. We're actually so thick in the fold of trying to record and get the rest of our shows out. We're like, yes, our Twitch stream was always for fun when we have time, and we just don't have time. So yeah, we really only have 4 right now.
Well, it's. I can understand why you're busy because, I mean, The Lucky Die, an apocalyptic audio drama, The Sprouting, which is a really good horror-based show that's based on role play.
So the Lucky Die and the Sprouting are both actually termed actual plays. So what they are is, if you know what Dungeons and Dragons is,
Yep.
I am the dungeon master in both games for that, actually, or keeper, depending on what system. We use Dungeons and Dragons or Call of Cthulhu, both different
Yep.
systems, and we use them to tell those stories. So that's why they're termed actual plays. They are technically audio dramas, but they're such a weird little niche that it really helps to distinguish between what is traditionally thought of as audio dramas, which are scripted things, much like one of our other shows, and improvised. But we're improvised with a set of rules, which is why it is an actual play. So yeah, we play Dungeons and Dragons in The Lucky Die, which is a fantasy apocalypse in progress where the gods are dying and the criminals at the end of a hangman's noose have to try and save the world. And then we have The Sprouting, which is Call of Cthulhu, so it's a much more eldritch based, but it's in a post-apocalypse plant-based apocalypse. So if you think Little Shop of Horrors at the end of that, where everything goes wild and the plants take over, that's The Sprouting. And they're both like very different stories and very different feels to them, but yeah, they're both actual plays.
And then Counterbalance is another audio drama that's fantasy-based around spirits, magic, and wow, it's just so cool.
Yes. So Kesa, who wrote that, absolutely love languages. They are German, Filipino, and they speak incredibly fluent English, actually much better vocabulary than I have. Kesa is incredible, but they wrote an entire new language, which is the language of magic in their world. And yeah, it's essentially, there is something called the Tangleweave, which is where all of the magic and all of the Feihu come from, which are kind of like the bigger spirits. And there's a hole that has been ripped in the Tangleweave, so magic is going wild in places. And it's basically a story of 3 people who should not be traveling together to fix the hole in the Tangleweave, and they are not friends to start with, but it's an incredible story. Like you said, you listened to the first few episodes of that already?
I think I've listened to 6 episodes, I think, so far.
I'm not even sure if I've turned up in those yet. So Kesser is the writer, but Kesser is also... So there are 3 main characters. There is Lynn, Raka, and Malaki.
Yep.
And Malaki is played by my husband, Aethel, who is Icelandic. Raka is played by Kesser, who also wrote and does all the direction and basically everything for it. They voice Raka, and Kesser's friend, Lynn, who is also German-Filipino, voices Lynn, hilariously enough. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I've definitely come across your voice on the group chat show for Top Threes.
Yep.
And
That's us.
Before we started, I even mentioned the infamous first episode where you picked a subject yourself to start it with that you didn't know too much about.
Yeah. So Four Top Threes is Blighthouse's chat show. It's the only thing that we do that isn't fiction. I mean, we're working on other stuff that also isn't fiction, but this is the thing that actually came out. And we are four folks from four different countries. Kessa from Germany, myself from the UK, although I now live in Iceland, Aethel, who is Icelandic, and Neil, who is American. And it is the idea of grab a random topic, pick three things that should be the top in that list, but that's not always necessarily what we end up doing. And then we just talk about it because well, first of all, it's an excuse for us to sit together and record and have fun before we actually started recording the sprouting, which we kind of do twice a week, give or take. Not at the moment, but we usually do. And Four Top Threes kind of filled the gap between getting everything ready to play the game actually up to recording. So we filled that gap. But it accidentally became something we really like doing. So we're reinvigorating it and restarting it again. We had a tiny hiatus for a bit while we were recording, and then we're kind of back to it. And yeah, it's just ranking stuff. It's just a vehicle for tangents and to talk about weird things from places where we came from and stories about our lives. And one of my favorite episodes is top gifts and top free things. It's just a way to quickly mine from my friends the things that they would want and the things they like as gifts. So we all come up with random topics like that for various reasons, and yeah, one of my favorites was gifts.
Well, gifts would be nice because, well, gifts are always nice.
Exactly.
But also because you're all four of you are from different cultures, those gifts will be different according to where you're from, I would have thought.
Yeah, so there are some really specific gifts that all of us mentioned. I think something from our younger days, like this gift really meant the world to me because of X, Y, or Z and where we're from. And yeah, for example, Iceland, the gifts, the thing that you would buy for someone in Britain, say, oh, hey, I noticed that it's really cute. I'm going to use an example from memory, actually. A really cute post box, right? So you would get a post box. It looks really nice. You think this would, and they could really use one for their house. Yeah. That's not a thing that you would think about buying for a friend in Iceland at all, because the weather here is so extreme. You have to buy really plain, really boring, industrial looking postings. They're not cute, nice ones you could buy for a friend. Oh, for example, my friend loves cats. I could buy a cat shaped one and give that to him, and he could put that on the stick at the end of his yard if he's in America. But you can't do that here in Iceland. That thing would fall apart in, less than a year because the salt content in the air, the changing of the weather, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it can be vastly different based on where you're from.
So what was your history then with podcasting? What was your introduction to it? How did you first discover them?
So way back in the dark days before the podcasting time, before I became a full-time podcaster, and I still lived in the UK, my background was mechanical design engineering. Yeah. And I always needed to have something on in my ears while I was doing calculations and stuff. I needed something. And I started listening to music, and then music got too much, and then I switched over to audiobooks. And once I'd done audiobooks, I was, okay, I'm gonna look for a specific type of audiobooks. I'm kind of fascinated with the zombie genre right now. Let me go find something. And what I found wasn't an audiobook. What I found was a podcast called We're Alive. Yep. And yeah, it's a zombie story of survival, technically. They don't like using the word zombie in there. And I found that, and I listened to it, and it completely blew my mind on what telling a story in audio should sound like, because I'd only ever really thought, and grabbing books from the library and stuff, it was only ever books that were read, and maybe they had someone voicing the other characters, maybe, but it was always like he said, and then they thought internally. And this is the first time I was introduced to a play on the radio, but it was a podcast, and I loved it from that point. And I was like, this is incredible, and if I'm going to tell a story, this is how I'd want to do it, because as my dad once famously said to me, you have a face for radio. So I stuck to that message very, very clearly. So I kind of went from there, and I started thinking about what I wanted to do. I saw a post on Reddit for my sins. I went there looking for another role-playing game to play. I wanted one that took the role-playing a little bit more seriously than my home group. And I found not exactly a, hey, come play this game online. It was a, hey, can you do voices? Would you be okay being in a podcast? I'm like, yes, I can. I can pretend to do voices, and I worked really hard on a Scottish accent, which is close but not there, and I was fine. And from that point, I worked with that guy. That podcast very quickly fell apart, but I kept the guy in charge basically just threw it under the bus and left it, which was sad because it's the first thing I've been involved in. I was really passionate about it, and me and the other cast members, the other players, we were all just kind of bummed out and talking about it. And I said, I don't know, I've got an idea for a game. I was completely lying. I had no idea. And yeah, two of the original cast members came with me to start a new podcast. We got a friend of ours who also came to become one of the players. Luckily, one of the folks who came to, let's make this project. Is a musician by training, an incredibly good one, a composer, and he learned how to edit on that original show that we did. So he was, I'll edit and do the music. And that's how The Lucky Die was born. We were just like, it was based on a lie and heartache. That's how The Lucky Die was there. And then after a while, we got to know other people in the audio drama area and other people in actual plays. And we started spreading our wings a little bit. That's how I got to know Kessir. That's how I got to know Athal and everybody over at Fallen Scholar. And yeah, it just kind of built from there. We got more voices involved. I got a new player. So our player base is now 4 instead of 3. And then after a while, we were, hey, Kessir's doing Counterbalance but hasn't done much with it recently. If we get them, we can work together, and if we put everything under one umbrella rather than me trying to do outreach and social things and paying for stuff under one show, it's just as much effort to do 2, which is a complete lie, by the way. Audio dramas, scripted, and actual plays are very different beasts to deal with, and I was very wrong, but I'm glad I did it. And then after we started working together and this is what we're going to call it, I'm going to share resources when we start new projects. That's how the Sprouting came about. And then we just, hey, we just watched a Little Shop of Horrors. Wouldn't this be cool? And I'm like, I have a story, let's do it. So then we spread out to that, and then 4 Top Threes was the gap filler. So it kind of went from a journey about 8 years ago, has now just exploded into some empire that I have some vague control over. So yeah, that was kind of roughly how we all got started and where our kind of podcasting journey is.
Yeah, but once you've worked ironed all these things out, and you know how these things are different. So that's different. That's a different beast to that sort of beast. And then now you're in a position where you're managing them well. Then there's almost a sense of, I want a better word than this, but joy. I can't think of a word off the top of my. There's a sense of joy actually getting to that level where you know that I know how to do this, I know how to do that, and you can do it, and you're getting these things out, and you've got over that hurdle. There's more of a sense of that than if you'd have gone to it knowing how to do it. There's more of a sense of fun and enjoyment of it through actually realizing these things.
Yeah, so when we first started The Lucky Die, there's 4 of us. So there was the audio guy, there was me running the game, there was going to be another guy who did all the social media stuff, and then we had someone who's going to basically do marketing, so getting sponsored ad reads. But we were so small numbers that their position never really activated, I guess, and now their life has changed, so they're doing something else. The guy who was on social media had a lot of stuff come up in his life, and frankly, social media wasn't working for us. And I honestly still think it's kind of, especially for audio stuff, it's not where people pick up podcasts, so why waste your time there? So then that just ended up with me and the other guy, and I picked up all the other tasks that should have been spread out amongst us all. And yeah, just over time, I've learned these weird little tricks, and I still see people, hey, how do I advertise my podcast? And I go in there with my standard, all right, this is the things that you do for free. It's super easy to do. It just requires man hours. It just requires sitting down, finding people's details, sending them an email, sending them an instant message if they don't answer through email, because not everybody is focused on that. Finding information is really hard. But yeah, we also have a lot of folks who just say, email me. I've probably helped 3 or 4 podcasts kind of get their footing of just, how do I do this? What things do I consider? It became such a thing that people ask me quite frequently, because I'm just openly, just send me a message. I don't really care. I'll be able to help you or I won't. I'll either be teaching you how to suck eggs or blowing your mind, or hopefully not overwhelming. That I just wrote what I call my dummy's guide to podcasting. And it has those basic questions of, where'd you get your show art from? Who do you think? These are all the logistics you should think about if you want to be really successful. And here's the true basics if you really just want to pick up a mic, hit record and get it out there. Because that process has become, over the 10-ish years that I've been doing this, super simple compared to what it used to be. And even now, podcasting has changed so much over the last 2 years, probably, sort of COVID issue. Things have changed massively, that it's changing again on keeping on top of those and launching the Sprouting, which we did, probably beginning of last year, actually, beginning of 2024. I had so much knowledge going into that. I know who I'm advertising to. I know who I'm going to be chatting with. I know where to get ad swaps because I've already made connections. I already know what our social media plan was. Basically nothing. And just relying on the word of mouth that we have, and knowing that I could pick up a project which 8 years ago terrified the absolute out of me, and we spent hours trying to figure out where to host our podcast. And now I'm just like, yep, Add it to the list. Boom, off we go. It's, and we're in the process of getting together 2 other podcasts that we're working on as well. That process is so much easier than it was when we were trying to fiddle and figure. And yeah, just keeping everything on track, like the puppet master or the train conductor or the chief whipcracker. Yeah, there is a genuine joy in just knowing that I can do these things and I don't necessarily have to panic on, oh my God, how do I do them? Don't ask me about social media or TikTok. I have no idea on those. I will find out and I'll spend hours learning that. But as soon as I know, I'm more than happy to let other people know because, yeah, that journey from A to B can be tough. And if I can help someone get there faster, I will. And there's definitely a joy in handing that knowledge over and handing contact details over and getting other folks to kind of that level if that's what I want to do. It's good hitting publish on an episode and it's incredible hitting schedule on an episode. My God.
Yes, schedule. I love that one. When you're that far ahead that you've got everything in place and you can go schedule as opposed to publish on the spot. That's nice when you're ahead and being able to do that. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, wow, you've already explained you've done the first 3 points on the notes already. Professional, you see.
I could, the thing is, right, I could just talk about podcasting forever. If someone says, oh, hey, can you talk me through how I get my episode from here to here or what you do for socials? How do you consider this? I send my thing and then I will sit and happily talk for like 2 or 3 hours and just burn someone's ear off about it because there's so much about it that's interesting and cool to learn, especially if you're new to it or even if you are experienced in it and you just need someone else's opinion. There's nothing more I love than speaking to another podcaster who has a different experience to me. Because, for example, video podcasting was never visual when I started. This is all weird and new to me, and I'm trying to figure it out with 4 top 3s because that's our experimental baby. That one could figure out how the video or thingy works. Otherwise, it just goes to YouTube with their logo. That's it.
Shout out to Jesse who does the videos for me. Thank you.
You're a hero. Editing isn't easy, yes. So always.
Well done. So what this next one, I'll just go back to or circle back to the whole idea of producing audio dramas in podcast form, which is an interesting subject because I've listened to audio dramas that were on the BBC. So we're both from the UK originally.
Yep.
And so we've got the BBC and they've got a long history of audio dramas and audio presentations and things, which is interesting because they don't do as much of that now as they used to. But even in that way, with audio drama, what you get from a podcast outside of the radio world producing audio dramas is that, for all intents and purposes, an audio drama that's on a radio play or something on the BBC has a certain thing that it follows. And it's almost predictable that you're going to hit A there, B, C, D. And you don't necessarily know what's going to happen at the end of it, but you almost can predict the different steps it's going to take. Whereas with someone who's working on podcast in an audio drama, they suddenly throw things in there that you won't expect. You'll get A, B, and then suddenly you'll get this bit that's a offshoot, and it won't follow that pattern, and it goes somewhere else. And I find that a lot with American-based audio dramas because they haven't got such a rich history of that, and they're making it up as they go along. You get these, much like yourself with your creations, you get these other creators like the Tchaikovskys that work with Aaron Mankey. You get the Lauren Shippens, and you get all these creators who put in all these different tangents that you wouldn't get because they haven't got that rich history to pull from, to inspire, to influence them. They're coming at it from a different angle, like yourself.
Yeah, so the interesting thing, not only does Britain have a really strong audio drama, plays on the radio, BBC. Yep. I never really grew up with that. My parents were TV watchers, so radio wasn't the thing. Orchestra comes from Germany. Germany also have a massive audio drama version of everything. So they talked about the fact that pretty much any movie that comes out will have an scripted audio drama version of that. And we have really... we're kind of in a good place, right? So if you want to start making an audio drama and you're from a country that has a rich history like ours do, you have some guidelines that you are told definitely work. And I mean, yes, technically that's not wrong, but the BBC already has a built-in audience of however many million. I mean, that's what our license pays for, right? That's what it's
Yep.
supposed to pay for.
Yep.
Of this is the thing, we know this work, and that's run by a corporation now. Either it's successful because it has a massive audience that it will already put itself out to, so it'll always be much more popular, or because the formula actually works. And we don't really know that difference, because if you take that structure and you apply it to your audio drama as an independent, you don't know if it works, because you don't have the built-in audience to get people to come listen to it. And the indie space, which I think is incredibly fascinating and so much more accessible, doesn't have to live by those rules. And quite often, the mother being, necessity of invention, you can't hit all of those beats. You can't always have those actors that have that depth, especially when you're starting out, especially if you're doing it yourself. I'll do an audio drama, I'll voice everything in there, and it will be, but I will give it a shot. I will change these beats. My lived experience is different from the particular beats on there. And the indie space is great because we're not stuck to, I'm going to pull random numbers because I don't know them. We're not stuck to 6 episodes that have to be 40 minutes long. The beginning of them has to do this. The end has to hit by this point. In audio, in the indie space, you can pick that up and go, I'm going to have one episode of 40 minutes, one episode of 55 minutes, and I'm going to have the episode end right in the middle of a scene on a very dramatic moment. And then I'm going to pick it up straight from that point at the beginning of the next one. Because also, apart from being accessible and having people's different opinions and being able to do whatever you want, you don't have to answer to committee.
Yep.
So when the BBC commissions writers, you have to answer to certain beats, you have to do certain things, which unfortunately pushes you back into that structure that they have. They can't afford to take the risks that a person with a $60 mic, a YouTube tutorial on how to use Reaper or Audacity, and 3 friends with varying mic qualities. One is freeing and one is more terrifying, and one would definitely get you paid, and the other one is, well, I'm still struggling.
I mean, the BBC, I mean, we'll come back to yourselves in a moment, but I'll just say in passing that there's a company called Blanchard House in the UK who make audio dramas and shows like that, and they somehow or another seem to have a lot of the better. I'm going to be outlawed by the BBC now for saying this, but they've got some of the talent that's no longer at the BBC that were producing these shows, which is why that sort of level of production, why they've got so many good shows on there, is because of the fact that they've got the best of what the BBC had to offer in that, when the BBC cut down on commissioning these sort of shows, which is, I think, is a good thing for the audio world, actually, for podcasting to have that.
Absolutely, it is. People who have that training and understanding of professional standards, of actually, I know the right people to get, for example, I know the right people to go get a studio where I can just record, and I don't have to worry about people recording in their homes, which could be affected by all manner of things. I've had someone send me a recording where the entire thing was ruined. It was the most beautiful performance I'd heard. Completely ruined because their housemate had the TV on. And they didn't realize, because the housemate had it on really quiet, but it could still be picked up by the microphones. Yeah. I've had takes ruined because someone puts the lawnmower on next door and I just want to rip my hair out. That's a weird barrier to being able to record stuff on a professional level. But if you have that professionalism, you're like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know who I am. I know where I can get funding. I know where I can get a studio. I know where I can get all the mics. I know the best people to talk to about marketing and strategy. And I can have people who are trained that can look at my script and go, this is good. This needs to be improved. It's really hard to do that when you're doing it yourself. You're an indie and you have very little resources available. Because, for example, if you're going to give your script to your mum, well, my dad will just tell me the whole thing and he doesn't want to read it. But other people may go to their parents and be like, this is really good, but not be able to give any constructive feedback. And you may not have friends who know what narrative structure looks like. I've picked it up through doing, various voice acting gigs, through running my own shows, and the chaos that comes with a particular style of show that I do. But I also get the pleasure of working with Kesir and working with a couple of other writer friends of mine. Just, I have an idea, is this structurally sound? And if you don't have friends who can be that brutally honest or don't have any experience, it becomes much harder to write those and make them really good. But if you have, for example, BBC background, or you have the German audio drama equivalent background, you know what's good. And more importantly, you know what's good for audio. Because a lot of people have a great idea of writing a script and they go, ooh, I'm going to write a script. Wait, I can't afford all the TV or the video stuff, so I'm going to make it as an audio drama, and completely forget the fact that you can't do visual stuff audibly. It has to be written completely differently.
Yeah.
Like when you're picking up a red ball and it's significant because the color red, the color you have to convey that. You can't just pick up the red ball and hope the audience will notice it, because then it can't see it. So you have to say, I'm picking up the big red ball, the big ball, the big ball that is red. And that sounds really unnatural. So you have to figure out a different way of doing it. There's also weird little things to punch up stuff. And yeah, having experience, I'm just glad that this talent pool is out here with the rest of us, making stuff that sounds good and are usually more than willing to chat with folks who don't have a lot of experience or a lot of resources. And that's been one of the nicer things in this community, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, all these creators, whether they are from that sort of background or not, it's good because they're approachable, because they're still in this world of podcasting, which is really fascinating because they're in that world and you can help each other out and offer suggestions and advice to each other. That's an amazing thing to be able to feed off.
Yep. I've made so many connections. I've met so many people doing this. My life, and I've said this for the last 4 or 5 years, my life is weird, man. Last week, when we were going to do this, I'm like, I can't. I was actually back in the UK on stage doing a role-playing game on stage. People were watching me play Dungeons and Dragons. That's part of the weirdness of my life. I'm living here in Iceland is another weirdness because of this whole weird community that we have, and the amount of people that I can be like, hey, you're a voice actor, can I grab you for this? And they're like, sure. I'm like, I'm going to pay you this much. And they're like, don't you dare. I enjoy doing this stuff. There are still people who do this professionally who don't want to be paid for working with indie creators because, well, why would we? We all love what we do. You know, for example, I'm going to be a guest on someone else's actual play podcast and we can't pay you because I'm like, bro, I don't even pay myself. No. And I love this. No. And even if I was super duper mega rich, if I don't like your project, I won't be in it, regardless of whether you pay me or not. Yeah. That's ridiculous. And I've turned other paid stuff away because I'm like, I don't want to be paid for this. Put it back in the pot, pay someone else, because I just love doing this. And I think that love, especially when you start out on the indie side of that love is felt everywhere. And although, you know, the audio drama does have some drama in it here and there, for the most part, everyone's just willing to pitch in, help out, say hi. Hey, why? And I think David Old and Sarah Golding are infamous for this. If you're a podcast, you're not really a podcast until you have both of them on your show because they want to be in everything and they rarely charge, even though I keep trying to give them. So I give David candy and I pay Sarah where I can. So yeah, it's a really good community that we have, not just actually on what the audience might hear, but massively behind the scenes. The Facebook groups, the Discord groups, like they're always filled with people just trying to tell each other that we're good, we're worth it, your idea is good, but could use a tweak here and there to be incredible. Hey, I'll help you out on that if you have nothing. There's nothing like it. It's amazing. I love it.
I'll speak with you afterwards about those two because it might be a good idea to actually have a chat with them as well, actually.
Oh, hey, I have so many resources I can throw in your direction for lots of stuff. You know, everything from actual plays to who you should talk to about advertising to different groups you should hang out with. My dummies guide to podcasting, the logistics guide of what you should do, not including social media because, hey, I don't have any idea on that. You're going to need to figure that one out yourself. But I have so many things I can send. You can put in the show notes if you want. Like, they're all just out there for everyone.
When I do get the round table discussion in place where we are going to answer podcasters' questions about podcasting, I will get back to you about that one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, I mean, things like that. I go to a few of these round table talk discussions. They're not recorded. They're just kind of like the group getting together to chat stuff. I'll always go to them because I'll undoubtedly learn something I never learned before. Someone's trying this crossover in the audio drama world with another podcast and it's working out really well. Or, hey, actually don't advertise in this space at this time because it's just not worth it. Or, hey, this is roughly what we should be charging for mid-rolls and post-roll ads and stuff like that. So I'm always forever learning stuff. And yeah, if I can even help someone with one random quote or one random comment, I'm all in. You just have to send me a message.
Absolutely. So what are you looking for then in shows when you're looking to develop shows? What is it that you're looking for? And is there a way that you break down the different aspects that you need to look into to get them from development to published?
Yeah, so primarily Blighthouse came together so that there's six of us, but there's four of us that's heavily involved, but there are six of us,
Yeah.
probably seven if you count Colin. Was a way that we could start new shows or continue on with the projects that we have and get them from baseline to produced
Yeah.
because there are folks of us who are incredibly gifted at writing but have no idea how to produce anything. There are those of us who have incredible world building stories that could be amazing, for example, actual plays, but aren't comfortable enough to run the game. And we all have all these completely different strengths. Luckily, my husband is great with finances, so he does all of those. God bless him. So it's kind of just a way for us to get the stories that we want told out there. And primarily when we put forward, so we have something called the altar of content, right? So people put suggestions in of things that they want to do. And generally it's picked up if someone actually puts real dedication into it. I've really thought about this. I've written a summary or an outline. I think this could be really good. And I'm really involved in this story. And for me, because I tend to produce pretty much all of our shows. Counterbalance is a bit of an exception. Kesha does a lot of that too, but I tend to do a lot of the marketing, advertising sides. It tends to be, is the showrunner, the person who came up with the idea, or someone who wants to pick up the idea and run with it, are they really invested in enough that they've done a lot of it without me involved, without me holding their hand?
Yeah.
And if we get to that point, I'm like, okay, great, let's actually look at the merits of the story that you're telling. Is this going to be something that we can produce really well? Is this something that's going to rely on a lot of special effects? Because if that's the case, that's not for us. That's not the kind of storytelling we're doing. Is this something that's, I mean, audience size isn't really a worry, but is this an audience that we think we can get? And then we just kind of, okay, so for example, there's a script that's being worked on right now. And the script is entirely written. I'm very proud of what they've done because I've tried script writing and I'm balls at it. And the story is incredible. And when you see that, you go, that's a story that needs to be told. So let's tell it. And even though the guy who wrote it is a fantastic player, he's never produced anything other than sitting at the mic, hitting record, sending it to the editor. And that's like the production part of it done for him. He's done the social media, but nothing else. So for us, like, yeah, is the story there? Is the person running the story actually going to be like, is it going to be worth my time to throw into this? And if the answer is yes, then I'll put out all the stops and we'll try and get it going. And it would start from, if it's a script-based thing, going through the script, having a table read, finding out the flaws, rewriting it. From there, it's figuring out, okay, what do we actually need to produce this? Like, do we need a musician? Well, you're always going to need a musician. You're always going to need a sound editor because 8 different people, 8 different microphone setups, because we have to record remotely. None of us record most of us aren't even in the same country. So like we have to record everything. We need a mixer editor. We need some sounds escaping in there. So that's the thing we need to grab. We need to grab, for example, like all the social handles. So we have to have a name. So we have to go through and find all those things. So there's a meticulous of that. Same with the art. We figure out, okay, we need actors. What kind of actors do we need? What kind of style is this? Is this naturalistic? Because if it is naturalistically written, you need naturalistic actors. But if this is very anime based, you need anime actors because their voice talents are different to naturalistic acting. Do you want something that sounds like it comes from the BBC with all of the pronunciations or not? No, you don't want that. Then we don't pick those kind of actors. So it's like figuring out those sorts of things and then figuring out, okay, so here's the script. We will divvy it out like this, getting the voice actors auditioned and all of that stuff coming in. And then, from there, it's like, especially for the project that I'm thinking of, there are some images that we're going to have made that are very particular only to that show. Yeah, this is a particular kind of show for a particular kind of trope and storytelling, so it should have this, so we need to go ahead and figure that out. Other shows that we're working on require singers. So we need to find those. That's a uniqueness to that. Yep. Is this something that we could have cameras set up for? And for all of our current fiction products, the answer is no, because scripted stuff is, well, it's just a bunch of actors sitting in front of the lines in up every third line because they need to get the intonation right and the actor. So that's not quite so interesting. Yeah, you can record that. That's not a problem. It's just people being people. So our process and my major process is the person who's going to run this enthused enough to do stuff without me poking and prodding, because I only have a certain amount of time in the world, and I'm also not a script writer and I'm an improviser. I build worlds. And if it is a good story and it is worth telling, what can we do to make this incredible? Because I will not put out under our umbrella. So I won't take what is considered the old college try, just enough to get your C's or your two twos or whatever it is. We won't put that out. We'll put out good stuff. Like, yeah, do we have the skills? And if we don't, how do we get them? And it really is a project by project basis. So, for example, scripted stuff is very different to produce than the actual plays, which is my bread and butter. Because, you know, if you hire an actor, you can probably do them for a month, send them all the scripts, get all the lines in. Bosh, they don't need to do anything other than give a stellar performance. But when you do an actual play, they could be with you, oh my God, for nearly 10 years. Wow. So these are people you need to be able to trust, that will turn up regularly when you can record, have good mic etiquette, be dedicated to telling their characters, their stories, and everything that goes around it. Like everything, and every project is its own like weird little beast. Like even though we have 2 actual plays, you think we could market and do exactly the same, have the same table, the same trust. We can't, because they're 2 different stories and 2 different systems. So Dungeons and Dragons being its one like fantasy thing, and then you have Call of Cthulhu being its own eldritch horror thing. Yes, a lot of people play both, but a lot less people play Call of Cthulhu, and they're very particular about how we should market to them. So it's just a different kettle of fish over there. So yeah, it's quite project based on those, but yeah, mostly if someone has enthusiasm and the story is great, then I'm going to get my friends' stories told. That's what we look for.
Yeah. I'll just say in passing that voice acting is not the easiest thing in the world, especially when you're voice acting to nothing as well. That, because I've done it twice on 2 shows, and it's just, I've been here at the microphone and I almost feel exposed in a way, because it's like I'm in a room, I'm on my own, and I'm just spouting these lines out, and you've got to give it these different inflections according, because you're almost guessing and thinking, right, what sort of mood am I in at this point as a character? So you give it all these different moods, and it's one of the weirdest things ever.
Yeah, I've been there. So I did a lot of voice acting when I first started getting into podcasting. And just being given a script dry with very little direction, in my case, very little pronunciation guides for like 4 different languages I had to talk at once. And then on top of that, matching the energy of another actor. Like if, for example, the person you're playing against decides that their anger is actually very quiet and cold and seething, and you're just like, how dare, where they don't match. And that comes down to the director picking the right takes, but there's nothing worse than having to do multiple retakes because you can't match the energy, or because you don't have the same chemistry that you have when you're doing it separately. And it is possible to do. A lot of productions that are high end also do remote individual recordings, but there are other ways in our beautifully digital world that we can overcome that. And what we tend to do is that we, like for smaller roles, sure, go ahead. It's like 4 or 5 lines. You cannot possibly put this up. And even if you do, well, the only one. But we tend to grab our main actors and we just do, for example, like this, we just do a Zoom call of just like, we will direct you through it. If there is another voice in the scene, maybe we'll have someone literally just read off script, you know, just not actually acting it. But sometimes we'll have 2 actors and we just rely on them to record, and then we splice all of their takes together at the end, because it will be gone through multiple times anyway. You should rarely ever just record once and walk away. Like, you do not have it in one, my friends, just know. So we tend to do that because that just helps a lot. It gets those nuances. And, you know, if you have booked like an hour of time with an actor and you go through all the lines, they're not feeling like they're directionless, for example. They know what they're supposed to be going for. They have the help. They have the on hand. The director can also ask for multiple types of takes. Like, actually, let's give one take where instead of seethingly angry, you're just cold to the core. Like whatever they just said just drops your stomach. Let's try that take. You have so much more range when you arrange those things. So yeah, we have definitely learned some of our lessons of our past mistakes where we have only ever done everything remotely. And yeah, it's really hard recording to a blank screen or to a script. It's so difficult.
It is. I'll also just say that the 2 shows that I did, which everyone will know if they've followed for a while, but I did get decent notes from both of them. So from Lyndon for the Icarus Complex, when I played his agent, the talent agent, or the person's agent, he was sort of saying on there things like irritated in brackets. So I'd know that I'd be irritated. So I even put a sigh at the beginning of one of them, you know, to get that sort of act. So so I did get some sort of direction there, but then and then the other one I did Stellar Future Radio. I was basically playing a weird version of myself where I'm supposed to be reporting about this sort of race that's going on in space or something. So that I basically did me being overexcited, pretending to be a somebody on the television reporting about this sport or something. These sports reporters that you see commentate. That's it, commentating. I'm just pretending to commentate on that. So I had decent direction from the notes, but even still, it's just me in front of a microphone, or it was, without anybody there physically with me.
It's also nice when you have another actor opposite you because there is an energy that is really difficult to fake. I mean, it's doable, obviously, but it's really difficult without someone else feeding those lines back at you with the same kind of energy. Did you ever feel empowered to be able to improvise around those lines?
I did do some improvisation on some of the takes of. I did a full on improv of the one with the Stellar Future Radio to make it more me because they said, "Oh, we want a version of yourself." So I made it all basically how I would say things, but a bit hyperactive and maybe a bit of poetic license to be exaggerated in some ways. But yeah, Lyndon's for Icarus Complex, I did it. I did two takes of it as is, and then I did another two takes of it, sort of worked around. But he still used one of the two takes according to script.
Yeah. Yeah. I always so when I send out scripts, it tends to be so when we do our actual play, I will be voicing a bunch of non-controllable, basically who aren't the other players, right? And I could be doing 10, 15 of these over the course of an evening or a recording session. And I'll send scripts out to those and I'll tidy up what I said, but I always put have fun, improvise, and do what you want because the whole thing is improvise, right? Like, how can I begrudge an actor giving an improvised take? But I also know the editor who puts everything together. He'll generally just grab either the first or the last take just as it is and just throw it in there. Just like, nope, these are all the same energy. These are all said the same way. It all goes in as it is, improvised or not. It still sounds good so long as the intent is there. So yeah, enjoy improvising. Like that's my bread and butter for stuff. I find it really difficult to read scripts as written. I'll do them, especially if I'm paid for them, and I'll do it as written. But it's really hard for me not to improvise. I always find, as I have another actor friend of mine who improvises lines a lot, and I always find their takes way more naturalistic because yeah, it is closer to yourself. But sometimes when you are getting lines back from people, you're like, no, no, I have to use the original. Sorry.
So you've produced these shows. At what point do you then sort out the show art? And I mean, the show music, you would have done that during the production. But what points do you go there, and how important are those to each of the shows?
Incredibly. It's incredibly important because although we are audio and audio should be the thing that you focus the most on, much like a book cover, this is the only image someone is going to see. My show, The Lucky Die, for example, has 4 pieces of artwork to denote the different series that we have. Main series, side campaign, behind the scenes, and tertiary, very mini series that we completed. Most people will only ever see your logo. That's the only time that's the only thing they'll see. They won't, for example, go to your website and see all the beautiful art that you have available to you. They won't go diving into your Discord or your communities or your Facebook and see all these extra beautiful pieces of art or fan art or any of the giveaways or anything. The only thing you should focus on when you're doing art for first of all is that logo, because that's the only thing they see. And it has to be eye-catching. It has to say everything you need to say about the show. If you have the ability to pay someone to make a logo, give them that responsibility because they know what they are looking for. They know what kind of layout this thing should have. 4 different types of font, not your friend. Don't do that. Do not fill your logo with lots and lots of font. Don't just have a picture because no one knows what your podcast is going to be called then. If you're going to use a photo, use a really good photo. Don't use low quality because it's 3,000 by 3,000 pixels or whatever it is for iTunes. Make it iconic. So if you blur your eyes a little bit and you look at the logo, is it still recognizable as your show? That's really important stuff to know. Yeah, that logo, it's key. It's one of the first things you should do. Like, we are working on 2 other shows right now, and as soon as like what I consider the next stage is finished, all that, getting all of that art done. So anyway, while you're looking at logos and while you're getting that sorted out for your iTunes or whatever it is, if you're going to be doing social medias, if you're going to be doing a website, getting assets that can be reused in different file sizes. So for example, iTunes is 3000 by 3000. If you're going to be on YouTube, it's going to be 1920 by 1080 or something like that. So you need one that, then you need ones that work as different headers for your YouTube and different logos for your YouTube. And the same applies for Facebook or X or TikTok or whatever else you might do. You need something that you can pick up and move around, or whoever is doing the logo, prep them that you need these different things and get them to do that at the same time. That's what we did. I do not regret a single thing of that, because it's made doing all these other formats so much easier. You're getting a logo, you're paying for it, get these other things as well, because then you don't have to try and stretch the image or make it look bad. It's super important to get those handled right at the beginning, because, it's mostly the thing that most people will see.
Well, Counterbalance, taking that as an example, the show art that you've got for that is almost like a medicine. Is it called a medicine wheel or something that you get in Indian Native American culture? You have these, so they have a cloth that they get out, and they have all these different bits that they need for their rituals in a way. And it's like one of those almost, but in an art form.
Yeah, kind of. So the Counterbalance, if I remember correctly, is kind of loosely based on the Icelandic Galdra stuff, which is magic stuff. So Iceland has all these basically lines with other lines in them that denote kind of spells and directions and protections and stuff like this. So Counterbalance has a little bit of that. You take a bit of this, you put a bit on that. Again, because Kesse not only is an incredible writer, a great performer, also an artist by trade. They're a graphic artist. They're incredible at this. They will take images and they will change them to reflect whatever is happening in the particular episode that's going on. So for them, every episode has a unique piece of art to it. And it looks incredible if your podcatcher shows individual pieces of art, which they often don't. And it's a real shame, because they're really good. But yeah, Kesse uses a lot of runes, and that's what all of their magic is based off of, is runes. I actually sat down as a gift to them. Something very significant happened in their life, and I wanted to make them something. I made 58 individual keychains that I burned each individual rune into. And it took me hours, and I sent it to them the other day, and I was very happy about it because it came out amazing. And it looks really good. The runes in their natural form on wood burnt in just look incredible. So yeah, Kesse uses a lot of the runes that they specifically made or they borrowed from others to be part of the language that they wrote for the show. It's the magic language, and they all have runes that associate with them. So yeah, Kesse has a lot of that going on in the art, as well as, hey, there's an image of nature, because that's also a lot of what this is based in, albeit magical nature, but it is nature. Yeah. You don't have to do individual episode art, but if you have an artist on hand, or you are the artist, there's no reason not to, because it does look good. It's just not everyone will see it.
No. The reason, for those people who are watching as opposed to listening to this, the reason why I gave that look is that was sort of like, oh, they can do that as well. All these people that are multi-talented in many things.
Yep. Kesse is incredibly talented. They do not give themselves enough credit for what they do. They're just not comfortable or not particularly good at following up and chasing down leads to get their show more heard about and more spoken about. But that is something that I just do because I needed to do it for The Lucky Die. And albeit, yes, actual play audiences are different from Counterbalance, there is a lot of crossover. So it's kind of transferable skills there. I'm like, this is something I'm good at. Let me do it. I've got you, boo. Kesha is my best person in the world, so there's very little I wouldn't do to get their story out there and told. So again, that's just where our talents cross over. Like this is a thing that we each do differently. For example, also Neil, who is the editor on a lot of the Blighthouse shows, not only is he an incredible musician, and not just I will play, the piano and he plays guitar. He'll pick up an instrument and give him an hour and he's playing something on already. And he composes everything for all of our audio drama, for all of our actual plays. So Sprouting has its own original soundtrack. That's because he wrote that. He made that. Apart from that, he's also an incredible editor. He makes our mic sound really good. He's been working on experimenting with music. He's been experimenting with ambience and making the scenes that are not. So we have at the table, which is where we're just talking about mechanics and ideas and giving information. And then we have in the scene. He's been adding effects to our voices in the scene to make it sound like we're in that place. And Neil is amazing. He does that. And apart from being an incredible musician and editor, he's a fantastic player. He's one of my most favorite people to play with because he has such intensity and he has these amazing ideas, sometimes very high ideas, but they're pretty good. And I love nothing more than playing with him. So he's just, again, unbelievably talented, but anything other than that little sphere he's involved with, it's not his wheelhouse. Whereas I can't do art the way Kesho does, or write the way that Kesho does, or create music the way Neil does, or edit anything. Like I used to do audiobook narration, and editing was a thing I just couldn't deal with. It's one of the big reasons I stopped doing it. I just can't do it. But I can do all these other things, and we all tell amazing stories. That's the thread that we have. Yeah, you do tend to find, especially in the indie space, and people have been around for a while, and their team is quite small or singular. Yep. You become adept at a lot of these things very, very quickly. Multiple hats a lot of the time.
Absolutely. So another important part of podcasting, I think, which is sometimes overlooked and not thought about, is the importance of show notes that you have with your podcast. Mm-hmm. It's almost basically, this is the story of this episode, these are the players, and this is the people. So what do you think's important about show notes? And I'm adding this caveat to it as well. And the new changes that have happened to the RSS feed, we're getting all technical here. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they're hitting something that needs to be looked at as podcasting goes forward? Do you think that the changes are important to that?
So we will definitely circle back to that. So what should be in show notes, right? What purpose do they serve? Show notes, or descriptions, as they used to at least be called by most people. The descriptions of show notes were there, and they usually you have to click the see more. So you only have probably less than a traditional tweet of people being able to see something. Show notes serve the purpose of giving information about the episode. And I have seen people who just put nothing. They put literally nothing there. And that's a waste. But that is your choice. It's not technically needed. Again, if someone is binging your show, which not something we ever had when we were listening to the BBC, God, I couldn't binge any of that. It just wasn't possible. People don't usually read the show notes. It's not really there to serve the purpose that we want it to. We want it to inform the listener of what's going on, but most people don't read it, and most of it's hidden by the see more button. Yeah. Anyway, that aside. So show notes, they can do basically two things. One, if you are serious about pushing forward what you're doing, put your cast and your crew in there. You don't have to thank, for example, me. I do 4 different jobs for different podcasts. I don't list myself 4 times because I'm not like that. Even my IMDb is like producer and GM. I'm not putting all the other jobs I do. That's just ridiculous to me. But this is your choice, right? Yep. Put cast and crew, list everything down. If you need to attribute someone, for example, if you're using a Creative Commons, that should always be in there. If you're using music from someone else and they want to be credited, you should be crediting them. And a good person will always put a link to their music. Luckily, because of Neil, I don't have to do that. So I don't really need to do that. And if you're smart, no, I'm going to go back to if you're smart later. So that's point 1, right? Cast, crew, anything you need to actually thank. Then you have the option of putting down what your episode is about. And this can be very factual, right? So if you're doing, for example, nonfiction, just be fairly factual about it. This is what this includes. Put your own voice in it, have fun, whatever. If you're doing a drama, if you want to put down what happens in the episode, that's up to you, because you will be giving spoilers if you're not careful. So that's a choice you can make. For us, we tend to be a little bit more laissez-faire in it. We'll hint at what's coming up, but we won't say what's coming up, and we'll use language that circles around it. Met with an old friend. Met with a parental figure, literally his father who is dead. No one will see that coming, but there's enough of a hint in there that something's going to happen. And you can put that in there. These are all things. For the sprouting, I've turned it more into a diary entry because they're all supposed to be chapters in a book. So it is, dear listener, la 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 la, I guess you're about to find out, and then a little introspective written by the person who's writing the description, because that's part of the story. The description is part of the story. So that's what we do, but not everybody needs to do that. Now, if you are smart and you do have these sorts of things, that description is also for fantastic SEO magnet, because anytime your episode is posted, especially if it's an individual page or you host it on your own website, that is free SEO real estate, my friends. Put those keywords in there, work it as part of your description, put it in the bottom with all of the credits and people you need to thank. Just put those tags down the bottom there. They're extra words that you can put in to be picked up and discovered. And for the love of God, 2 things if you're smart. First of all, put a link to your own pages. So for example, if you have a website, make sure you link back to a major page on your website that has the most amount of traffic. And on that major page, we have most amount of traffic. Try and make sure it's the same link and try and possibly link back to any episodes that are big, because that creates a little web that the SEO bots can find more easily. Makes you more discoverable. Yep. My pet peeve. If you have a content warning, put it at the top, because a content warning is supposed to be there to help people make decisions on whether they can listen to the episode or not. Yep. If it is hidden under the find more button or, more info button, a bit gets hidden by the point. Most people don't see it. Most people don't read it. They'll just see there's an episode description and move on. Put your content warnings at the top. And this includes on YouTube as well. If you're going to use them, put them up there, because that's the only part people see. But otherwise, smartly put something in that helps your SEO, put your cast and crew in for the love of God, make sure your content warnings at the top, and, have fun with your description about the episode. It's up to you how much you want to give away or not. There is no formula for it. Everyone has successes with different things.
Yep. So what do you know of the changes that have happened to the RSS feed details, and what do you think of them?
So I don't have a full grasp on how everything has changed, but I know that all of the platforms I've uploaded to, they have changed the way that I interact and put all that information in. Yep. So where I put my episode name in, how I put the tags in it, what the episode lengths are, when they should be released, all that metadata has now changed so much in the back end. I don't know what my RSS feed should look like anymore. I just see a link and I go with it, but I don't know what has changed in the back end.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think the most useful thing that's been added to it, this from my own personal point, would be something like the chaptering option. In a way, is sort of the most important thing that I can see. But even then, that's a tricky thing, because I want people to listen to the entire episode, if I'm being honest. That only works in these like magazine programs where you go from, this is the beginning of the show, then you go to this part of the show where you're talking to this person or this person. Mm-hmm. So if you're only listening to a show for certain bits, I don't think it works so much with audio dramas or with some chat shows, because that won't happen that way. You won't skip in an audio drama to this bit here. You will listen to the entirety of the audio drama.
So what I have found, and from chatting with other podcasters about similar issues, we have found a lot of podcasting stuff, the rules, the distribution, all come down to folks who do... The assumption is, you do podcasts, what do you talk about? It's always assumed it's a talk show. Very ever rarely is it assumed it might be a fiction. And you can look at this for the grieving that was when they changed it a couple of years ago was iTunes. iTunes do not want you to put episode numbers in your titles. And okay, that makes sense. If you're a podcaster, you can pick up one episode and just listen to it. If you are an audio drama, those numbers are essential to know whether you've missed an episode or not. To know, hey, I was on episode 13. I haven't listened to it for 4 weeks. What episode should I go back to? Because names are much harder to remember if you have individual episode names. We'll do that on almost all of our shows. Almost every title is different, right? So episode 1 will be called like The Fall of Howsam, Dead Sky Mountain, whatever you want to call it. The Sprouting is different because we literally call it chapter 1 part, la la la. But not a lot of podcasts do that. A lot of podcasts do like episode 3, da da da. And if we got rid of that episode number, we get screwed because no one knows where they are in the series. And you don't want to skip an entire episode. You don't want to skip the important emotional arc right in the middle of it. It makes sense. And I guess here's my little theory. A lot of distributors will have their own ads. So put in their own ad spots. They'll dynamically insert it, which means the ad will change depending on what the advertiser wants to put in. And a lot of distributors where you would host your show, they have those programmed in, right? So they'll do those automatically. But if, for example, I take a sponsorship and I put it right in the middle, because that's sadly where I get the most money, and not something I ever do, but if I wanted to put it in the middle, you would then chapter, this is the ad, it can be skipped.
Yeah.
That means that the people paying me don't get their money worth, and I will be forced to go back to the distributor. That's my weird little conspiracy theory for the day. You're welcome. I think it could work for audio drama in the way of it works like a timestamp, so you know that you got this far through the episode, you can click it and go back.
Yeah.
But I think it's just not really needed, and it's not really helpful for us. It doesn't help us in any way. The same on YouTube with all the chaptering that you can put in. Just it doesn't help us in any way, shape, or form. Unless you want to go, here is the intro, here is the outro, feel free to skip those. But you do that naturally anyway. You'll always hit the skip forward 30 seconds. You'll always like skip to the next episode if you have a hand free for listening on whatever device. So yeah, I don't know how it helps us, but I can see it helping, unfortunately, what is the market share of podcasts, which are talk shows.
Yeah. I suppose if they made what was available with some of this chaptering thing, with some of them, you can put different artwork in for different chapters, for instance. That works to a degree with an audio drama, in a sense, because then if you wanted to, you'd be able to place in an artwork or something that works for that specific section of the story that you're telling. That's useful, but that is not available on every single distributor. The fact that you can put different art for each chapter, that's not available elsewhere. So if it was an industry standard that they did that, that would be more useful, at least for audio dramas.
Yeah. So this is where I have a little axe to grind with podcasters who are podcasters only on YouTube, for example.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking a lot about visuals, right? And the whole show is designed around having visuals. And yeah, it's good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing it for that sake. My problem comes when, for example, you're listening on, let's go with my pet peeve right now, Spotify. The point of being able to listen to anything wherever you want, the greatest strength of being an audio podcast is that you can be listened to in the car for very long commutes, and a lot of people do listen to podcasts like that. To then start adding in visual stuff that they aren't going to be able to see, and if they do, they should have eyes on the road. Completely wild to me. And the amount of, and if you're looking at it from my business side, because I have to put my business hat on occasionally, I could spend hours and money creating artwork for individual chapters for every episode I put out. Many scenes happen. This could be a lot of money and a lot of time. Does that actually, this is where I'm going to ask, does that actually push forward my KPI of listeners and patrons? It doesn't. It will not push that forward whatsoever. It'll be great for maybe retaining certain people, and it's a nice to have. And if you are doing this solely as a hobby, or you have enough time and money to put into this, great. I can see this being really good. But as people who are struggling to turn what was a hobby into a serious business, I can't spend time doing that. And it does seem like a big time sink if we make that a standard industry. Every podcast is expected to have visuals that aren't just the logo. We're going to lose a lot of really good creators by being simply overwhelmed with things that they have to do to be big, to be good. I mean, people are already overwhelmed with, where should I put my show? Where should I host it? Should I do free or should I not do free? Should I put myself on every platform that's out there, or should I put them only on specific platforms? When should I release my podcast? Should it be first thing on a Saturday morning? Should it be last thing on a Sunday night? Should it be Tuesday morning? There's so many things that we really have to think about, and paying for stuff if we want to get it done. And I think that it could be useful, but we'd only ever really see it on the big boys who already have millions of bucks to spend on stuff. And that will put an even bigger bridge between those of us who are doing this as independents and those who have a big studio behind them. That gap, it really wasn't there when podcasting started 15, 20 years ago. The chances of my podcast or my other friend's podcast taking off as D&D compared to the big companies that are out there now, they're doing incredibly well. And maybe not as much money as Hasbro or Chaosium, but they're still pretty high up there. But now that gap is getting even bigger between the guys who pick up a microphone and record and are fairly good at it, clean up their audio, they do their best. But to then have an even bigger gap between us and the professionals is like, I can feel the space becoming commercialized, and it hurts my soul. I don't like it.
I mean, I have that problem with these things. Like, all I was saying was that the only way that could be helpful would be that if you're doing that. But other than that, I don't really see the point that much.
Not a good use for it, I think.
No, but
Like
also,
it's a
yeah.
nice to have, but like, damn.
But also, when you get these people now going on about, oh, you should have transcripts in your show as a thing as well. That's another thing you've got to find time to be able to do. Sort of my show, for instance, AI transcripts are dodgy, to put it lightly, because they won't
So
get names right. I mean, they get my name wrong every single time, and even in the show notes that I get, sort of, as AI show notes, I'll get those, and I'll be like, "Well, that's not my name. That's not what we said. That's not
yep.
the name of this person. That's not the name of their show."
So
So,
you, me,
yeah,
Kesser, and Athel all have problems in that a lot of these AI transcripts are based on the American accent.
yeah,
It cannot cope with my accent whatsoever. Whereas I think anyone who has a scripted fiction should be putting that script up for people to be able to read. You don't,
yeah,
in my opinion, really have an excuse to do that. I can understand how, yes, this is actually another format of your show, basically
yeah,
the written version, and people should be paying that. I have heard that argument, and whereas I agree that is your prerogative as a creator to do that or not, just put them out there, boys. It's already written. It's fine.
yeah,
Just put it out for people to read. Whereas things that are more conversational, what we're doing right now, and especially if it's on like YouTube or something, the YouTube subtitles, they're okay. They will never be 100%, but they are okay. However, when you get to really complicated stuff, and this is a problem that we have with the Sprouting and the Lucky Die, we have, for example, I'll do the Sprouting. We have 4 different accents naturally. Each of the characters have their own voice. So let's say that's 7 voices before we kick off. And then we have, I think at the moment, 20 voices from me.
okay,
So that is so many things that the AI has to try and transcribe, and you're only giving it 1 file. Maybe I'll be kind and give it all 4 files, who knows? But it's
yeah,
terrible at transcribing that, especially the free versions of the AI transcripts, which are they're what they are. And if you pay for them, they are better. You can teach it to be better. So it will realize that when, I use the word Beligabud, that's not 3 different words, it's 1 word, and it will start auto-correcting to that because I tell
yeah,
it to. And it takes time to train it, but it does do it. But that does cost a lot of money. And the best way to get the best transcripts is to pay someone. But imagine you're paying $1 for 1 minute. The lucky die is 14 days.
yeah.
I don't have 20 odd $1,000 to spend on a transcript. And that
No,
really sucks because I would really like to be able to offer that. If, for example, you are a really big studio and you're already transcribing a bunch of other stuff, you have no excuse. Go ahead and do it. You have the
yeah,
money to pay for that. And you should. You should be doing that. You have the money to have someone sit down with the AI bot, have it clean everything up, learn what it needs to learn, and just read through it and change it. Reading through and correcting is much faster than, and I did this for Dark Dice all of season 1 with 5 different people with 7 different accents. Typing that by hand, so much longer. You can afford someone to sit down with the AI bot. It's something that smaller independent groups, we simply can't afford that right now. And transcripts, if they're going to go out, they should be good. They shouldn't just be pure trash. If you're watching it on YouTube, you are pretty used to the closed captions at this point. I can only apologize for how bad they are. Dealing with our British accent here. Very sorry.
absolutely.
But
Yep.
it's a nice to have, and if you can afford it, you should be doing it. But if you can't, we shouldn't be denying the accessibility to this space, putting up more gatekeeping, essentially, because some of the best shows I know come from people who would never have done this and definitely can't afford to have transcripts, and they have some of the most amazing stories. And I'd hate to see that disappear because we start adding all of these extra things that you have to do. You have to have transcripts, you have to have show art, you have to have chapters, you have to have fully fledged out descriptions, you have to write down the chapter numbers. No, just keep it bare bones simple, man. Can you hit record? Does it sound, and can you get it published? Yes.
Yep.
Let's have that be the bar and not rail on people if they can't add all these nice to haves on top. If you can afford it, though, you should be doing it. That's it.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. So, is there a standout moment in the history of Blighthouse? You can look at this any way that you want to, if you like. Sort of like one show where you were like, yeah, that's the show that was the impetus for this or for the whole thing, or a moment where something was tricky to get round, but you worked a way around it and learnt from this. So any way that you want to see that question, a standout moment.
So technically, none of our shows are finished. So they're all ongoing, with the exception of things we paused, like 4 top threes, but that's coming back in October. And the Real Dragon Sound, which was a Twitch stream, so I don't really count that. That's not real. That lives over here somewhere. We've had a lot of weird standout things to me. So one of my favorite things is that during the Lucky Die, being it's a long form story, it's been going on for 8 years, and I swear to God, it's almost over. I swear to God. We took a break halfway through. Like, we hit a really big point where I'd finished all the prep, and I'm like, okay, let me finish the prep for the next book. I need like 2 or 3 months to get this going. So we did that. And during the break, I grabbed every player individually and I was like, hey, ask things about their characters, see how things went from their perspective, anything we want to focus on for their character in the future. How do we want their arc to go from here until the end? And one of the questions I randomly asked was, because we're talking about success, what is success in podcasting? And the answer is whatever you need it to be, but be smart about what it is. If your goal for success is 1 million downloads, it will come eventually.
Yep.
So you leave it long enough, the laws of the existence say it will probably get 1 million downloads. So it is a thing, but be smart. Like, you set yourself some smart goals. Yep. But one of the players I spoke to, they said their mark for success for them, they will consider themselves a successful podcaster when somebody cosplays their character. And I'm like, that's a stellar thing. Like, that's a thing that will either happen. We can't force it. This will be amazing. Yep. It's not eventually this is going to happen anyway, and it's not an impossible goal. And 2 months later, we got some photos arrive on our Discord, and it was a photo of this character's wife, and another guy who was taking pictures.
Yeah.
What had happened was that 3 people had flown to one location from different parts of the world to take these pictures of this character and her wife, and it was beautiful. And I saw these pictures, and I don't actually remember what the hell was happening around me. I know that there were waiters, and I know there were people at my table, but seeing this just stopped the room for me, because it was incredible. Like, I didn't expect this to be a thing. I hoped so. But what made it even better was the pictures were beautiful. They were really good. And, they had all these pictures of behind the scenes of the photographer helping them out and meeting with other fans of the show when they were just talking about stuff and doing this cosplay. And it's like, that's incredible to me. That's a moment that I don't know if I will ever have that same, oh my God, moment to it. That was just like standout incredible for me. It was really nice, because then I got to be like, hey, we're successful podcasters. That's one of our things ticked off the list. I'm so happy.
Yep. It's like me when people will, from years back, will suddenly get in touch with me and say, hey, Marv, how are you doing? And even people who are not just podcasters, but occasionally I'll get messaged by people, I'm not sitting on names now, terrible. Ben Burrell, who is also a top radio presenter for Absolute Radio. Name check. I'm not going to get any money for it. Who cares? But when they check up on you, and these people, and then there's Nicholas Tukusky, who's a writer and director of film and all sorts, and I'm in talks with him at the moment for something that's, I'll mention it to you when we finish. I'm going to leave that as a surprise because it's really exciting. But when these people get in touch with you and they're coming to you like you came to me,
yeah,
that sort of thing, that is when you know that that you're doing something that people enjoy, and that's more important than anything else. The money would be nice, but it's better than but it's one of the great feelings.
Yeah, I get that too. People will reach out to us, and I think I mentioned this. People reach out and ask, how do we podcast? You make a really good show, and I really want to emulate kind of the stuff that you do. I just don't know how to get started. Having that, oh my God, someone thinks I'm an expert, and I'm just over here winging it. I have no clue, man. I just send emails out and hope for the best. I just rely on Neil, and Neil is the true talent here. I will always say, if Neil, unfortunately, slipped off the face of the earth, Blighthouse would not be. And the same with Kessler disappeared, or if I disappeared, we're all contingent on each other. But there is just something so profound on someone that you respect coming to you, or someone out of the blue sending you a message like, hey, do you want to do a thing? You're just like, oh my God. Not only does someone actually want me to do something, I'm discoverable on the internet.
Yeah.
Because that is one of the harder things. Again, I was doing my due diligence for our team, and I just started trying to find people to talk with and get our show promoted, do some cross promotion. So one of the things that make me happiest is at the end of every episode, we have an ad from someone different. I mean, sometimes, yes, I will play the same ad twice because I really like them, or because I don't have any ads. But of the 200 or something episodes we have of TLD that's out, we have nearly probably 150 different ads from other shows, because I think it's really important to build cross promotion, different shows talking to each other, different perspectives, a rising tide lifts all boats, that kind of stuff, especially in the kind of smaller area that we're in. It's just a good feeling to be able to talk to other people and be like, hey, you want to do a thing? And they're like, yes, I would love to do a thing. Oh my God, they replied. Because the amount of times you don't get a reply, you're just like, it's so miserable.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on Stu World Order 3 or 4 times talking about different superhero films, and all that's just cool. It's also cool to do stuff where it's not your normal wheelhouse as well, to do that sort of thing, which is fun. So we're already giving advice anyway to people as it is. What advice would you give to people going into the world of podcast?
So there's loads of things, right? Consider your logistics. If you're doing it with other people, have an honest conversation about who is doing what, and make everyone be honest about what they can actually do. Because everyone starts off with great ideas, right? I'll do this and I'll do that. And honestly, life doesn't allow you to do that. It's never with any negativity that you say, I just can't do it. I don't have the time. Just, have those conversations. Have an honest conversation about the people you're doing stuff with. Yeah. But mostly, don't be afraid. Just do it. Just hit release. Hitting that first time you hit release or scheduling, oh my God, what a game changer. The first time you hit publishing, there is nothing like it, but it is hard work to get to that point. Don't worry. Do not worry about hitting publish. Do not worry if it's not perfect. The first episode, treat it like you would a pilot. There's a few other. All right, talking about pilots. So the other advice I would give, if you are intending to do a lot of this stuff yourself and you're planning on getting into podcasting and you're a solo outfit or you're a small group, do 2 to 3 episodes and get them in the can, and don't hit publish on those yet. You want to know why? A great, fantastic question you asked here. Because then you'll actually know what it takes to make an episode. So it is surprising how long it takes to edit if you want to do editing. You don't have to, but you can just take the audio straight off of Riverside and post it. You can do that. You can definitely do that. If you want to do, yes, brave. Because you don't know what the lag is, right? You don't know what the quality of the mics is. Like, you should always listen to something before you put it out. But yeah, if you're going to make episodes, because it's not just, for example, I mean, take this episode, right? We've been recording for what, an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
It took us a couple of weeks to be able to arrange this. That just took time. And I know that you've listened to bits of Counterbalance and you've listened to some Sprout and 4 Top 3s, I think you said. You've done your research on this, and that is not a nothing time. That is time that you have put into this. I took a lot of painkillers and I had a lot of coffee before I started this because I'm quite sick. That's time and effort you put into this. And I spent a long time trying to find your contact details because the idea of your show is incredible. And I love talking about podcasting. So I'm going to find that. And that probably took me upwards of half an hour to find that and then craft the perfect email to get that in. And then there was backwards and forwards. And now we have, an hour and a half of recording. Plus, after this, whatever amount of time that you need to spend editing this, your video editing, getting everything scheduled, getting everything posted, if there's social media shout outs to do, if there's any Patreon drops that you need to schedule, if you're scheduling to, for example, Megaphone and YouTube and Patreon, these are all individual things that cannot be done in a single button. You have to do them individually. They all take time. Learning that process by having a couple of episodes in the can tell you whether you're actually dedicated to what you want to do and give you a better idea so that you don't go, I'm going to put out 3 hours of audio every single day.
Yeah.
No, you can't. Trust me. That's way too much unless you only do that for a living. If you're going to do that as in your spare time, that is all of your time. So all these things take time. It's good to learn for more than one episode. And I say that because the first episode will always take 500 times longer than the episodes you produce now. Like, that is, you just learn the tricks of the trade. There's a lot less setup by the time you're on episode 3, or in our case, episode 240. A lot less setup time for doing these things, but you still need to learn that. And it helps to know the process and to be more reasonable with your own time. And if you want it to be a business or if you want it to be a hobby, these are the things you learn. So spend the first couple of episodes, get them ready, get them scheduled, even if you don't publish them, just so you can be more honest with yourself about what you want to do.
Yep. I had 9 of them before I started putting them out.
So behind the scenes at TLD, I had the lucky die. For the first 6 years, we didn't have much of a backlog at all. So we had 2 episodes in the can when we hit publish on our very, very first episode. Then we were releasing weekly at the time. For about 4 months, we were recording like the Sunday before the release day. And that was manic. And the editor went like, I can't do this. I'm like, yeah, you can't. Like, guys, you need to pull your head out and be recording. So we did. We recorded a bunch. And then we had a massive backlog of unquality controlled, which is what I do. He does all the editing. We had a bunch of that for the time. And since I started doing this full time, which was 7 or 8 weeks now, we have gone from no episodes posted, like we missed a release date, to having 3 episodes now released and 8 episodes scheduled. Yep. So we're scheduled all the way up to the beginning of February now.
Wow.
And we have never had a backlog that big of things ready to publish. Like, that's everything scheduled in like Patreon and YouTube and like Spotify. And like, we've never had that, and we're still growing that. It has been an incredible feeling watching that number go from there's nothing here to like, oh, 3 released and all these extra ones. It's been a wild time on our side. But yeah, having a schedule, having episodes scheduled, even if you don't release them, is such a relief if you have to take time off. It's such a stress reliever because, yeah, if you take time off and you're trying to do something weekly or every other week, if you take time off, that cuts into that. So having a backlog, oh my God. Wow. What a relief.
You're 5 months ahead.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're really good. We release an episode every other week on the 5th and the 20th for the Lucky Die. And for the Sprouting release once a month. And we're only 1 month ahead because we're doing early access now. So all of our patrons get the episode. So we've killed our backlog a little bit. So we only run that. But we have so many more episodes in the can that I haven't listened to yet. And we're in the process of getting that up to the same level of being 5 months ahead because, yeah. As soon as we get really far ahead and we finish editing all the shows up to current date, we can start working on new projects, which is what we really want to do because we have new stories we want to tell, but we have to get the backlog caught up first.
Yeah, absolutely. So what shows do you like to listen to if you have the time to listen to any other podcasts?
So I used to listen to We're Alive and all of the spin-off shows that have come from that. They did a Scouts Honor recently, and that's amazing. I love that show. I don't tend to listen to a lot of podcasts anymore. I used to listen to a lot of actual plays. I used to listen to The Adventure Zone, which I really loved. I used to listen to Taking Initiative, which was a hoot, and The Once and Future Nerd. Basically, they're either actual plays or fantasies or they're drama, right? But now, because I do this basically full-time, I had another job that I did literally full-time. It was 16-hour days for 3 months and then full-time for about 9 months before that. I stopped doing that now. Now I do this. Now I do this full-time. If I'm listening to something, it needs to be my own show for quality control. Because on the Lucky Die, I still have 12 episodes to catch up on. And then I'm up to current date, which means I can start recording the finale. And for the Sprouting, we just released episode 16, or will be, and we have 126 episodes in the can that I need to get through. So I can't listen to anything that's not my own shows right now. Yep. Because if I get caught up on my own shows, it means I can make new shows, which is what I really want to do. But mostly I'm watching stupid YouTube videos on World and small gaming shows and Decoding the Unknown and mystery horror things. And at the moment I'm back on my zombie kick because I'm running a zombie game next year. So I'm just like learning all about the tropes and learning about all the structures and what all the symbolism means. So I'm watching a mixture of shows and world building suggestions and storytelling. It doesn't one-for-one commute across to actual plays because I live at the whim of the dice and I live at the whim of my players. If they decide to go through the door not marked plot, in fact, if they decide to kick a hole in the wall and go through there, my plot is I just have to figure out how to get them back there. So I don't worry too much, but it's good to know these things. You can craft a really good story. But yeah, that tends to be what I listen to right now.
Right. Okay, thanks for speaking with me today, Hem.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So how can people contact you and find the shows that you do?
So you can find, if you just want to find the shows, search The Lucky Die or The Sprouting or Counterbalance or 4 top 3s, 4 written out FOUR and 3s THREES. God, I'm great at spelling today. Any of your podcatchers of choice or YouTube or in a search engine, like you will find us, you will find our web pages. If you want to contact me, it's contact@blighthouse.studio. That's it. We don't really do social media because, well, it's a little toxic in places. And also, it's not great for discoverability for podcasts. That time has gone, unfortunately. So we don't tend to use it because we only have a certain amount of time to spend. So we don't use it on social media. But if you email me directly, I'm more than happy to sit and chat with anyone.
Yeah. Now, we're going to say that. And now I'm going to say, You can find Pods Like Us on any streaming platform, wherever you search for podcast. And the easiest way to find all links to contact Pods Like Us is through the marvzone.org, because there are links on there to everything, including email, which is how you got in touch with me. And other all the socials are on there as well. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening, and hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us.